Well, we'll start our review and then we'll talk a little bit about some best practices for navigating conflict in social media or avoiding it in a good way. Preventing it from happening as much. But as always, we always kind of start with a review because I really want to make sure that these things we talk about each week stay in your mind so that you can more readily access them. So we have our AAAs of conflict. Who can tell me what those are? You know all three? Just name all three.
Acting like you're right, assigning blame, and assuming intention.
That's right. And I'm not going to go over the conflict styles because everyone's going to know theirs and they're going to know about it at this point. But we also talked about learning to listen, talked about approaching a conflict from the third story, which is, what is the third story? Go jump on the trampoline. You remember what the third story is?
It's kind of like the narrator's point of view, sort of an objective telling.
It's an objective, it's that neutral story, and it's an objective telling of the conflict. And we also approach conflict by taking a stance of curiosity. It's pretty self-explanatory. Be curious about why the other person feels the way that they do. Take an interest in that. And when you take that stance of curiosity, it shifts your assumptions. Maybe you don't actually know what the conflict is about, and you can learn something and maybe come to a better conclusion. It's a help me understand what you are saying kind of deal. And we talked about the 3 listening skills: inquiry, asking questions, paraphrasing, saying what you heard them say to make sure that you get the gist of what they're trying to tell you and to eliminate possible misunderstandings. And then acknowledge how they feel, whether it's right or wrong. Acknowledge it. Give legitimacy to the other person's feelings. If you are unable to do those things, you can avoid the conflict temporarily, but just make sure you communicate that, right? You communicate it, you say why we can't talk about the conflict, and then give another time to do it. Those are some ways to say that you're paying attention to how the other person feels and listening in contact. And then last week, we talked about creating conversation. The goal, what did I just do? The goal of creating conversation is to be able to say how you feel with clarity and confidence. Your perspective inside of the story holds as much weight as the other person's, because we are all created equal in the eyes of God. When you are trying to have a conversation with someone about conflict, make sure that you start with what matters the most. Try to get to the root of what's creating that conflict for you. Do some of that self-evaluation that we talked about. And once you kind of know what that heart of that conflict is, that's when you can go and talk to the other person about it. You can ask yourself some questions to try to figure that out. What was done? How did it make you feel? Why does it bother you? And why is it important to discuss? These are things that you can ask yourself as you're trying to figure out what the heart of the conflict is. We talked a little bit about the kind of language we could use. When you do this thing, it makes me feel this way. And the reason that that bothers me is because of this. And it's important to me that we, whatever. So that's just kind of some language that you can use that isn't attacking, but still expresses how you feel with clarity and confidence. We need to say what we mean. Don't make them guess. Don't ease in with underhanded comments, hypothetical questions, or if you have something to say, then you just say it. Don't stomp around the house in a huff. If you're mad, tell the person you're mad. Explain why, the reasoning, the importance of it, etc. And don't start a difficult conversation by asking a question like, do you think you spend too much time fishing? You don't ease in by trying to soften the delivery of your message. If I want Chris to put the kids to bed, then I need to say, Chris, please go put the kids to bed. Or will you put the kids to bed? Instead of saying, Chris, do you want to go put the kids to bed? Because the answer will always be no, I don't want to, but I will. So don't soften a message, just say it. Don't present your conclusions as opinions. Don't present your conclusions or opinions as truth. Someone can be right and someone can be wrong. In fact, in the Difficult Conversations book that I recommended, actually the very, very last chapter, it has like the 10 most asked questions. And one of those questions is, what do you do if you're right? So that might be something worth looking into. We won't go into it in too much detail tonight, but just remember that you have a view and they have a view. So you can express it by saying, my view is, or I believe that, and not just saying, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. Hopefully you can get to that point if it is actually the right way or the wrong way. Like if someone says, I believe that Hitler did all the right things, then obviously they're wrong. And obviously that's something that you can get to, but you should probably find out why they believe that and maybe see if you can't have a creative dialogue about it. Also, share where your conclusions come from. What information do you have that led you to your opinions, and what experiences have you had that make you feel so strongly? So last week I talked about spanking, that it's my view that spanking isn't the best form of discipline, or I believe that spanking isn't the best form of discipline. I feel that way because I was spanked as a child and I feel as though it's really affected my ability to trust or something like that. I mean, that's not my personal view. Don't worry, Dad. That is not my personal view, but I'm just giving an example.
I could never spank you.
Yeah. That of a way to express an opinion without making it an absolute truth. Also, do not exaggerate with always and never. You always do this. You never do that. These are things that can help you have a more edifying, difficult conversation with someone. So there's your review. Let's just go ahead and jump on into conflict and social media. So I want you guys to hold up your hand with the number of social media accounts that you have. I have 2. Got 1, several 1s, and some 2s. So I have Facebook and I have Instagram. Does anyone have anything different than those 2? No? Gary, you're doing a plus sign?
Twitter.
Oh yes, Twitter, duh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't join Twitter. It's just too much for me. I like to look at pictures, I guess. But yeah, Twitter, Snapchat. I mean, there's a ton of social media accounts out there. Tonight, I'm mostly going to refer to Facebook because that's the most common one. And I think that's the one that most everyone has, unless you're under the age of 20, and then more likely not. But when I refer to Facebook, just know I'm kind of referring to whatever social media account is applicable in what I'm saying. So thinking to the times that you've been scrolling on your Facebook feed, have you ever witnessed a conflict on Facebook? Somebody posts something and somebody gets all worked up about it, and then there's a conflict that arises because of it. Probably everyone in one way or the other. Our family has been guilty of posting said posts that have caused some conflict. But it's just kind of the nature of the beast. In fact, Bonnie, referring to the social dilemma that you had mentioned, Facebook and these other social media outlets are actually, they feed your interests and your likes, which are fed to you as facts. And so when someone else who has been fed different interests and likes sees your post, like they have one set of facts and you have another set of facts, and it creates a lot of conflict within the social media outlets. So like you could type in to your search bar on Google, global warming is, and it always pulls down several options that you could click from. Based on your search history, based on the things that you've liked on social media, say you don't believe in global warming. So you type global warming is, and the thing that might pop up would be, is a hoax, is not true, is over exaggerated. Like it's going to give you those lists to pick from. Whereas somebody else who's like maybe a hardcore environmentalist or something like that says global warming is, and then it'll pop up different options based on their search history and their likes. So it would say global warming is a real problem. Global warming is something that needs to be addressed immediately. So do you see how you think you're approaching something neutral by just typing in a question, but you're actually being fed answers based off of your search history and based off of the things that you like? And what that has done is it's created a false sense of fact, a false sense of truth, because you have seen these articles and you know that this thing is true. How can this other idiot not believe it? Like here's the things. So why don't they believe it? So now in 2020, social media in a lot of ways is, whereas it's a great way to stay in touch with people that you love, it's also becoming more and more of a conduit for conflict and disagreement. So with that in mind, I just kind of want to bring some things to the forefront of your mind as we all continue to navigate social media. One of the biggest problems with social media is that it takes away a very large aspect of who we are as humans. It does not reveal your tone of voice. It does not show your facial expressions or your body language or something or anything like that. You don't totally know what that person is saying without those really important aspects. So let's take this phrase. The phrase is, ha ha ha, you're hilarious. That is the phrase. So if I just type ha ha ha, you're hilarious, that could mean other things. If I say it like ha ha ha, you're hilarious, we all know I'm being sarcastic there. Or if I say, you're hilarious. Like, I mean, obviously I'm faking it there, but that's a real reaction. I'm using the exact same words, but they have two totally different meanings. And that's why that facial expression and those kinds of things are so important. Oh, we just lost, no. Okay, that's why, sorry, I just lost my train of thought for a second. The screen did something weird. I got distracted. Same words, totally different meaning. You were able to know what I was talking about because of the tone of my voice and my facial expression. So when we remove that, how do we proceed? I mean, we are social creatures. All of us are social creatures, introvert, extrovert, whatever. We're social creatures. We're designed to engage in face-to-face. We're designed to be in community with one another. God made muscles for us to smile or frown or laugh. He gave us tear ducts to cry. And those just aren't for our benefit. Those are for us as a community because it's things that we all have and things that we all share. The internet removes that face-to-face. And because it removes that face-to-face, it takes away our ability and opportunity to grow in compassion for one another, in understanding, and in empathy. Because if we cannot see the person's hurt face when we say something mean, we do not learn that those words are not the right words to say. So when we remove those things, we've just moved the easiest way of figuring out someone's intentions. So if we don't have, if we have those things, if those things are gone, how do we proceed? On a platform like Facebook, that's not going to go anywhere. Social media is not going to go anywhere. So it's our responsibility to figure out how to navigate that in a healthy way in regards to conflict. So I'm going to give you guys some principles. Really, a lot of these principles are kind of the same as if you were approaching someone personally in conflict. It involves a little self-evaluation, and it involves thinking about the words you're going to say, those kinds of things. So I'm going to talk about two aspects of social media. I'm going to talk about when you are scrolling and reading posts, maybe thinking about responding, versus when you actually are going to stop and respond. So the first part is when that you're just reading and maybe thinking about responding. The first thing you need to do is question your motives and your emotional state. So if you see something on Facebook that causes a really strong emotional reaction and you want to respond, think about why. Why do you want to post? Why does this make you feel upset? And how was I feeling before I read it? So checking that emotional state is really important. If you had a bad day at work, or you just had a really bad encounter with somebody or a fight with someone, that's going to color the way that you read comments and posts on social media, because it's the headspace that you're in. You're going to read things in a more negative light. Even if something is positive, you're going to be like, oh, well, they're so happy and that's dumb of them, or I don't know, something like that. Like when you're in that negative headspace, you're going to read it through the lens, like the glasses lens of negativity. So be aware of that. When you find yourself really upset about a post, also think about, like I said, the why do you want to respond? Like, are you just angry and do you want to lash out? Do you want to fix the problem? Do you want to feel superior? Like, I'm right and you're wrong and here's the reasons. Like, why is it that you want to post? So before you post, question your motives and your emotional state. Second thing, get the facts. Check your sources. I'm going to say Google it and see if it's actually true. But as I just said, that can also be a little bit dangerous. What you need to focus on when you see something that's really upsetting or something that you feel like is false or even super, super true, and you're about to share it, check your sources. Make sure it's from a reputable and reliable news source. Make sure it has citations, things that have actual proof. Now, that's not always going to work, okay? But these are just things that you can control to know that you've done the best that you can do when trying to navigate difficult conversations on Facebook or conflict on social media. I mean, we've all heard the phrase fake news, right? Started in 2016, and people have been getting their own version of the truth since then, almost, it feels anyway. So that's why getting the facts are important. That's why citing your sources are important. Don't just share. If you're going to share an excerpt from an article, make sure you show the citation for what article that comes from, so that people can't always won't take it out of context. And you do the same. If you see an excerpt, read the article so you're not taking this out of context for maybe what that person is trying to say. So get the facts, check your sources. Also ask yourself, do I really need to post at all? Like, is this a subject of which I have a lot of knowledge for? Like, is this an area of expertise for me? Do I have something new to contribute to the conversation? If what I'm going to say has already been said, is there a point to me saying it? And what is my goal for posting? Think through what will happen when you post in the heat of the moment, especially if it's a hot button issue. Like, you just got to take a beat before you respond. I am talking to myself as much as I am talking to. Honestly, there's a lot of people that I wish were taking this class right now that aren't, but we'll just have to be the change that we want to see in the world of social media, I guess. Just the 7 of us, but we can do it. I believe in us. So those are some things you can kind of ask yourself as you're reading, checking your motives and your emotional state, getting the facts, ask yourself if you actually need to post. And then last one, I skipped, think, would I say this in person? Could I say this thing to this person's face? And if you could not, you probably shouldn't be posting it either. There is a false security in posting on Facebook. It feels like you can say and do more things than you actually can say and do or should say and do. So you have gone through these steps and you have decided, yes, I am now going to post on Facebook. It sounds like such a drawn out process, but again, pull from it what you need. Any kind of pause, any kind of thing that you can use is going to help you. So when you're actually going to post, here's some things to consider. Obviously, if it's something happy, if someone posts a picture of a cute baby, you don't have to think about that. Just say, yay, cute babies, or what a treasure, or they're so adorable. Just go for it. If it's a dog meme and you think I should send that to Anna Jane, absolutely send it to me. Don't even hesitate, because dogs are the best of us and should be celebrated. I mean, these are good, happy things. Share that abundantly. Post on those abundantly. I'm talking about the things that are a little bit tougher, like cat memes. I'm just kidding. I'm talking about the tough things, the politics and the other things like that. So you have to think about what you're going to say. You have to plan what you post. Revealing your opinions about potentially controversial topics or hot button issues isn't necessarily bad. There's different perspectives for a reason. Different perspectives help us grow and enlarge our minds. But you have to be able to take the time to make it a good post. Take a second to think about if it's worth what you're going to say, and take the time to use the right words. If it's an important thing to talk about, then it deserves time to be posted. Also, be very clear in your meaning. If you're being sarcastic in your post, you should let them know, little parentheses, she said sarcastically, or sarcasm, just kind of anything like that. You want to post that. You want to let them know if you're being sarcastic, because you definitely don't want to read them as a truth. Read it as a truth if it's not actually a truth. So I actually have a little, oh, Linda's here. All right. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to give you an example of why it's important to be clear in your meaning when you're posting on Facebook. Okay, I've got this, don't worry. Maybe. Social media and conflict, here we go. All right, here's a phrase. No punctuation, no nothing. Wow, you're so smart. What are some ways that this could be read? Can anyone tell me? Okay. It could be read, wow, you're so smart. Or it could be read, wow, you're so smart. So let's see what different ways this can be interpreted by using emojis and punctuation. Emojis and punctuation are two of your most important resources when it comes to communicating clearly on Facebook. So here we got our first one. Wow, you're so smart. Can you guys see the whole thing? Clap, 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 and smiley face. How obviously I'm being congratulatory, like, hey, you just passed your ACT. Wow, you're so smart. Way to go. And you can see that because I have exclamation points. Some of this seems very elementary, but I'd rather err on the side of telling you all the things I know than not. So it's got exclamation points. It's got clappy hands and a smiley face. You know that means it's happy. The next one, wow, you're so smart. Neutral face. I don't know what you guys call it. I call it neutral face and eye roll. So with this, I use my ellipses to add a longer pause, no exclamation points, and 2 emojis to indicate that I'm being sarcastic. So here we have it. The same phrase said different ways and communicated 2 different meanings just from emojis and punctuation. Communication is so much more than words, but when all you have is words, you really need to utilize every single resource that you have access to. And as I just said, emojis and punctuation are 2 of your most important ones. And it's a way to help you be clear in your meaning. So let me stop that. We'll go back to that here in just a little bit. And
I do think you also have to be careful. Like, I don't always know what the emojis mean. Like sometimes, like there was one I thought it was laughing and I sent it to my daughter and she's like, that's a crying emoji, Mom.
I know the exact one you're talking about.
And so I think you also have to be a little bit careful on that too.
And
what I do if I'm not sure what emoji I want, my phone suggests emojis. So I will type in the word that I mean, like happy or concerned, and it will suggest the right emoji to me.
Oh, there you go.
That's a good process. Yeah. Gina, and if an emoji looks weird to you, after someone posts it, you can always ask them, like, what did you mean by that post?
Yeah.
Were you going to say something, Susan? Or
you can search them on Google too.
Oh, there we go. I wonder how consistent that is with, because some of those faces are so weird. Like I definitely have different meanings for some of them than I think other people do. So yeah, that is something to consider, Teresa. It's a good point. You know, you got to know your audience and you got to know your people. So when you're posting on someone like a global post where it's someone that you don't even know, you just got to take the chance on whether or not they're going to interpret what you're trying to say, and you just do your best. And if a misunderstanding comes from it, then, you know, just do whatever you feel necessary is after that, work it out or ignore it. If you don't know them, it's not that big of a deal, right? So, and sometimes haters are just going to hate and there's nothing you can do about it. You can do your
Right.
best and people are still going to be little turds about it. Yes, Jonna.
I was going to say that back in the day when my mom was alive, if she would get mad, she would type in all caps. And it'd be like, and so then finally, sometimes she would type in all caps and then not be mad. And I'd say, Mom, you type in all caps and it makes you think that you're mad. So then she started doing all lowercase. It's like crazy.
That's whispering.
Yeah, exactly. And she didn't have a whisper. She's like me. So we didn't have a whisper.
Oh my goodness. Yes, that's another good example. All caps is generally accepted to be yelling or angry. So if you're an all caps typer, just be aware that that's how people are most likely going to read your stuff. Okay, so those are just kind of as you're going to post, when you're actually going to post, you need to plan out what you're going to say and you need to be clear in your meaning and know that maybe not everyone's going to agree with you. And if you took the time to post with clarity and confidence, then that just kind of is what it is. And if you're prepared to have those disagreements over politics or over which TV show is the best TV show, then, you know, so be it. Like, if you guys want to argue with me that it's something other than Parks and Rec, that's fine. I'll listen to your wrong opinion and we'll still be friends. But just, you know, there's lots of things that we can argue about. That you've done your part, right? You took the time to think about where you are emotionally, took the time to use the right words and emojis if that's what you choose. And the rest is just what it is. That is the nature of social media. I do have some kind of like just real general things that can help prevent conflict on social media, as well as just kind of make you feel a little bit better about your life, which will also inadvertently prevent conflict because you're less likely to engage and attack when you are in a better state of mind. So first one is looking at my audience. Pretty much none of you need to know this, but you can just tuck it away for when someone else does. So I'm going to pull up my slideshow again. And one of the things that is really important to do is avoid vague posts, especially if they're directed at someone vaguely. Okay, so here's an example. I actually had a friend who posted something very similar to this. It says, I don't hate you. I'm just disappointed you turned into everything you said you'd never be. Now, let's just take that phrase for a second. Let's say you got into an argument with, I don't know, a good friend or a sibling or maybe one of your kids, and you see that they post this on Facebook several hours later. You would read it and think, are they talking about me? How dare they? Or that's so rude. Or I can't believe that they would do something like that. When in actuality, because it is so vague, you don't know if it's directed at you or not. And so the same goes, if you're mad at someone or frustrated with them and you post something like this, you might create a conflict with someone you don't even realize you're doing. And I have a real life example of this. One of my friends posted something very similar to this. She was talking about her mom, but about 30 minutes after she posted, one of our mutual friends calls me and says, can you believe this person just posted that about me and didn't talk to me about it? And she was in such a huff and she was so mad. And I was like, wait a second. Actually, this person posted this about their mother and it has nothing to do with you. Because I knew that because she had talked to me about it. And I said, but if you think that this was posted for you, this is directed to you, then maybe you guys need to have a conversation anyway, because maybe something's not right, or maybe you think something's not right, or whatever. So a conflict was created from this very vague post because someone just assumed an intention behind it. And because we're so quick to assume intentions, and we know that now, we being you guys, then it's our job to not leave room for that. Because people who maybe aren't aware of this are just going to assume those intentions. But if we know better, we need to remove that space for assumed intentions and make what we're trying to say as clear and concise as possible. Another thing to avoid is very general posts about yourself. I'm so sad. I'm so angry. I feel so frustrated, because these are the things that are going to happen as a result of that. Obviously, you're doing it because you want someone to reach out to you. Like, you want someone to ask, why are you angry, or why are you sad? But that's not guaranteed to happen. So how is that going to make you feel? It's going to make you feel neglected. It's going to make you feel ignored, and it's going to make you feel like nobody cares. And in actuality, none of those things are true. Most likely. Maybe people didn't see it. The people that care didn't see it. Or maybe they just didn't have the emotional energy to talk to you online about why you feel sad or why you feel angry. So if you can avoid those really general statements, like if you feel sad, then talk to a specific person about why you feel sad. If you feel angry, talk to a specific person about why you feel angry, instead of just putting it out there in the social media world for who knows why, like who knows who's going to read it, who knows how they're going to respond. And it's only going to make you feel worse. And when you feel worse, and when you feel angry or neglected, then you're more likely to lash out. And you're also more likely to view everything that you're seeing on your Facebook feed negatively and through that lens. So it's a bit of a cycle there. Just be clear. Speak with clarity, speak with confidence, or type with clarity, type with confidence. If you do find yourself at odds with someone because of a post that they did on Facebook, it's wise to reach out to them personally. It can be on Messenger, or even better, a phone call, so that you can at least get tone of voice, especially now since we can't always be together the way we would like to be together. It's important to pull in as many of the things that humanize us as possible. Our tone, our voice, or even just a one-on-one typing conversation where we're not distracted by what other people are saying, or we have other people contributing to the hot topic post that was made. I had mentioned at the beginning to kind of evaluate your emotional state before you post. And I would even venture to say, if you are super sad or super angry, don't get on social media. Like, just don't, because it's not going to make you feel better. And it's not going to help end whatever conflict you're having. It's more than likely, it's just going to make you feel worse, or you're going to post in an extreme way. So your extreme emotions are most likely going to be misread, and that's going to misrepresent who you are as a person. You're not an angry person that lashes out, but you did have a bad day and you're really just kind of fed up, and that person's post was the last straw and you're going to let them have it. And that's not wise, and that's not going to be productive. Another thing you can do, this is just, again, general things to make your conflict on social media life a little bit easier. Unfollow somebody. Like, you can love someone in person and hate their online presence. I actually have several friends, none of you, that I don't follow on Facebook. I haven't unfriended them because I just haven't, but I don't follow them. Like, I don't see what they post because I just cannot with the way that they post. They don't use punctuation, drives me nuts. The things that they post are this thing or that thing, and I just can't. And it makes me, it sours my view of them a little bit. And so I remove that souring element in order to preserve who they are as an actual person, the person that I know them to be prior to Facebook or to that Facebook post. There's already a lot of animosity and frustration in this world. And if you have even an ounce of control over how that looks to you on social media, then you need to unfollow that person. If they're getting you all angry and whatever, it's just not worth it. You can pursue a relationship with them some other way, or maybe that relationship just needs to go away. You know, Jesus talks a lot about social media in the Bible. I don't know if you've read those verses on Facebook or not, but Gary can tell you about them later. He's got a whole study on it. But Jesus, whereas he doesn't talk about social media, obviously, he does care about how we talk to each other. He speaks a lot about the words that we use and the tones that we use with other people. In Matthew 5, chapter 21 and 22, and I'll read it to you, it says, "You have heard that it was said to those who lived long ago, 'Don't commit murder, and all who commit murder will be in danger of judgment.' But I say to you that everyone who is angry with their brother or sister will be in danger of judgment. If they say to their brother or sister, 'You idiot,' they will be in danger of being condemned by the governing council. And if they say, 'You fool,' they will be in danger of fiery hell." So Jesus just jumps right to it. He gets to, obviously murder most likely isn't going to be something any of us struggle with. I mean, I can't guarantee it, but most likely that's not going to be the case. But he gets to the root of murder, doesn't he? He gets to the root of things that make us want to murder someone: anger, insult, labeling. So if Jesus tells us not to do these things, and in person, we're most likely not to do these things, why do we allow ourselves to do those kinds of things on social media, especially if we wouldn't do it in person? Brene Brown she's an author and a speaker, but she's also a psychologist and a professor. She's one of my favorite authors. In one of her books, she uses a phrase called moral exclusion. And basically, moral exclusion is dehumanizing someone. And if you can dehumanize someone, take away their humanity, then you are now allowing yourself to exclude them from your group. You are allowing you to exclude them from how you would normally treat someone. If you can dehumanize them, you don't have to treat them the way you would other people. So normally I would be kind to someone, but because this person is an idiot, because this person is a bully, because this person is a liberal, because this person is a conservative, I don't have to apply my morals to them because it's a them and not a person. The labeling dehumanizes. And if I can exclude that person or that group from who I am and who I have to be moral to, then I can say whatever I want. And that's the biggest danger with social media, is how quickly we can dehumanize a person because we no longer see who they are as someone made in the image of God. We see the words on a screen that represent a very, very small facet of who they are, or maybe even just represent them in a bad moment or on a bad day or in a bad year. It is 2020 after all. So if we can really see, if we can remember that, if we can constantly remind ourselves of the individual humans that are behind each post that we see, whether it upsets us or not, then we're not going to treat them as lesser. We're not going to dehumanize them or label them. Words on a screen will become just words on a screen and not that person. So it's important to wait, I think, hold on a little bit. So if we're really going to see other people as human beings, then we're not going to treat them any differently than we would those that we love. I mean, Jesus wouldn't do that. Jesus wants us to love God and he wants us to love others. It's our job as peacemakers to give every ounce of grace and assumed good intentions that we possibly can. If we want to be like Jesus, we cannot apply labels to people because then we forget who they are. Jesus's ministry was constantly approaching people that were labeled as other, that were labeled as less than. And so it is our job as vessels of Christ to do our best on social media to humanize those around us and to take the time to talk about the hard things with them without labeling them. Anyway, does anyone have any questions? Mom, we can see you brushing your teeth. You meant to have your screen flipped. Anyway.
I just have a remark about something that helps me because I tend to want to express myself more than I ought to. So if I am typing a text or typing on social media, I delete between 60 and 75% of what I type. I go back and I read it. I go, no, I really don't want to say that. And sometimes I'll go back 2 or 3 times and I'll say, well, you know what? I don't want to say what I said before that either. And often I end up deleting the whole thing and just going on, just not posting at all. But I think that if I can delete 75% of what I type, that I'm improving my posting by 4 times.
Definitely. I would say 5 times, like just taking the time to really be thinking about the words that you're using and that kind of thing. It's really important and it's valuable to your online relationship. So I think that's great, Lynn. And I also think it's when you're typing things, I think it's important to say, please read this as someone who loves you, or please read this as someone who doesn't understand, or like there's a way to give context from where you're coming from that allows that person to extend grace to you in your comments as well. Any other questions or comments or experiences that we want to share? As I'm done on my end.
Can I follow you on Instagram?
You can. Absolutely. I'm not very excited in my posts, but yeah, go for it.
I like to look at pictures too.
Yeah, I post some good pictures. Okay, well, guys, next week is our last week. We're going to talk about the positive side of conflict. We're going to wrap it up. And then you guys are just going to go make the world so awesome and full of peace that I just feel great about it.
Mhm.
So have a great night. And think about your words and think about all the people that God loves in the world and ways that we can show them that love too. And I love you guys, and I'll see y'all next week or sooner. Bye.